My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we have an awesome episode for you this week. Got a guest that I'm really excited about. Just a few housekeeping things. But first, Robert, how's it going, man?
Man, doing pretty good. Had one of those early days today, so it's been a long day, but doing good. High school basketball season's getting ready to start, so excited to go watch my younger son play a scrimmage game tomorrow. Got to fish a little bit. Caught one decent bass. Just chugging along. What about you, man?
Also just kind of chugging along. I haven't done any fishing in quite a while, and I'm itching to get back out there. But yeah, I've been, trying not to get too jealous of, kind of watching the standings for the Hobie TOC. That day one was today, that we're recording this. So, been enjoying keeping an eye on some of our past guests that have been on, like Jackson Orr. He had a good day today. And then guys like that are on the Savior team with me, like Brandon, and I'm going to butcher this last name, but Berlinski. He had a good day today too. So just excited to see guys that I've built a relationship with and see them do well and on such a big stage. But fall allergies are in full swing. So I too am very tired, but we are going to make it through this. I did want to make a couple announcements first. So this is the next to last episode of this season. This is season 4, even though it's our third year doing this, because in the middle of the first year I made a whole bunch of changes and decided we'll just call this season 2. So that's why the numbers don't add up if you're looking at this, but yeah, we've had a great season this year. And we'll talk more about it, next season, but next episode, y'all are going to want to, tune in. This is the first time Robert's hearing about this too. So I'm excited to see what he thinks, but we're going to have, Alex Rudd on to talk about finding positivity and how to do that, because we've kind of made it part of our brand and part of our mission to bring positivity into the fishing community. And so excited to do that. He just had an episode this week on his podcast of talking about positivity, and they brought up some of the hot topics that is very negative in fishing right now. And each of their guests came up with a positive swing on it. He had it was a Bailey Egbert and Drew Gregory and Alex Rudd. So we're going to have him on just to kind of piggyback on that and just kind of talk positivity to close things out for the season. So excited about that. And we are, coming up on Black Friday. So we have some Black Friday deals to announce. First, Jay's Jigs is going to be doing a Black Friday deal, and right now, all I can say is they're having one. We don't know what it's going to be. I know that there's not going to be a code required for it, but it's going to be it's going to be some sort of secret deal that you're going to want to check out. I'm waiting to hear back on Mr. B Lure Company, but we'll announce it as soon as we get that information. Savior Outdoors starting Black Friday is going to be 15% off with no discount code required. And then, so Get Outdoors, Pedal and Paddle, and Omnia Fishing. I'm going to read some stuff from their email real quick because it's a little bit more information than I have memorized. So Get Outdoors, Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina, they are currently having their fall clearance sale. So all of their in-stock kayaks right now are at least 10 to 15% off. And all of in-stock paddle clothing and accessories are 10 to 40% off. So now is the time that you want to get your kayak rigged out or buy a new kayak. Like if you're gonna do that, now is the time to check that out. And then for Omnia, so right now they have a couple things that are going on right this second. The first one, I'm not even going to read it on air because by the time this comes out, actually, I'm not going to read it on air at all because right now it's already expired. But so right now until the end of the year, they have a Lose holiday promo for 25% off of certain models. And I will be taking advantage of that as soon as payday happens because the BB1 Pro is one of those models. And for $150, that's a phenomenal reel. That's my top pick for like high-end reels. Let's see, November 8th, which is today, until November 15th is so. If you're listening to this on the day it's coming out, you have 1 day left to get early Black Friday sales, which is 20% off site-wide. 11/16, so November 16th through the 22nd. Daiwa Omnia co-branded promotion. If you purchase a Daiwa Tatula SV, you're going to receive a co-branded Carhartt hoodie. If you purchase a Daiwa Zillion reel, I will get the words out, I promise. If you purchase a Daiwa Zillion reel, you'll receive a co-branded Sims CX hoodie. And then so November 17th through November 27th, Mustang Survival Map. The discount is to be determined on that. So keep an eye on our stuff. We'll post more about that whenever we get it. And then you can also visit Omnia Fishing and click on deals, and you'll be able to find all of that. So definitely want to take advantage of that. If there's something on that list that you've been wanting, go grab it. So it's one of the exciting parts about this time of year. I struggle this time of year because I'm not a huge Christmas person, and I really love Thanksgiving, and I'm really sick and tired of my favorite holiday being drowned out by one that I just have to tolerate because I mean, whenever you work retail for 15 years, Christmas becomes a jaded in certain ways. So but yeah, definitely check out those reels. I know that was a little bit of a long intro, but we are going to, unless Robert, did you have any other housekeeping things that I missed?
No, good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw all that stuff from Omnia. I thought it's got some good deals in there coming up. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's thank a couple sponsors and then we'll get our guest introduced. Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Savior Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to saveyouroutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's savouroutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15. Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's faith the letter N, fish the letter N, P-O-D, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10. All right. Apparently, internet is running a little bit slow today. I don't know how smooth that went on your end, Robert, but it did not go very well on this end at all. It came in late and it cut out early, so I don't know how that's going to look on the back end. But so this episode's guest, I'm excited about it. It's funny how God just takes things and works things out to where they're supposed to be. So I get this email, and I was checking the email right before we got on with Matt Ball. And I saw this email come through. I want to be a guest, or I would like to be a guest, or however it's set up. I think he might have gone through the website to do that. I'll let him nod his head or shake his head, but on that. But if you go on the website, so faithnfishn.wixsite.com/podcast, because it's a free one, you can scroll down to the bottom and click I would like to be a guest, and it'll send me an email, and you can put that up there. But it was Marty Hughes, and I was like, I know that name. I can't remember where I know that name from, but I know that name. And then as we start talking about Fisherman's Fellowship with Matt Ball, he mentioned that Marty Hughes had led a few of them, and I was like, hey, that's that name again. So so excited to have Marty Hughes on the podcast, and we are going to bring him in now. Marty, brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here. It's been quite a time trying to get out here.
So if you're wondering why we're all laughing right now, thanks to some behind the scenes editing magic, it doesn't seem like anything happened to you, but it ended up being a little bit of a challenge getting Marty's internet to cooperate with us, but we are here now. So, Marty, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Marty Hughes is.
Well, first I want to say I'm married way up. We know that. So you probably like just help me do all this. Marty Hughes, live in southeast Nebraska currently, and have been in Nebraska since 1976. Live an hour south of Omaha. For most people, kind of know where Omaha's at, in a town called Auburn, and started kayak fishing about 25 years ago in southwest Nebraska as a means of just to go out and paddle. And I got out there and I saw there was fish and brought my pole and started fishing out of it. I didn't know anybody else was even doing it, and in fact, there was probably not very many people doing it at that time, but. Anyway, started kayak fishing, been an educator. I was an educator for about 40 years, teacher, principal, administrator, running a school. And then, I've been retired about a year and a half. In fact, today I substitute taught elementary PE K through 3 for 8 sessions. And then just to punish myself even more, I did a half a day of kindergarten. So you can imagine what that was like. And so my wife, she took me out to supper tonight, kind of helped me out. They would get my mind back straight. But no, they were great. Kids were great. I just love being in school. So I help out every once in a while, do a lot of other things too. But mainly I fish now. And I love promoting it and getting other people out there. And, it's just a great way to relax at the same time, go catch fish, But basically that's I guess that's in a nutshell.
Absolutely. So you were an educator for so long. What age range were you at? Were you high school, elementary school, middle school?
I was K-12 most of my career. In fact, half of my day was with elementary kids and half was with middle school, high school. And then the last 5 years as a principal, I was in grades 6 through 12. I was in charge of the middle school and the high school.
Gotcha. So what is your, not trying to pick favorites too bad or anything, but what's your favorite age group to work with? Middle school.
Just a lot of people tell you just the opposite, but I loved coaching at the middle school level. I loved teaching it. They were sponges, and very good at still listening, so forth. They didn't know everything, and you can really teach the fundamentals at that age in sports. And I enjoyed them all, but middle school is probably my favorite.
Absolutely. In youth ministry, middle school was my favorite to work with as well. So, and you add on top of all the reasons that you just mentioned, you add into the fact that, those social boundaries are not set in concrete yet. You can it's a lot easier to get them to come together and be a group with people that they normally wouldn't hang out with at that age than it is once they get into the high school range, like that 10th, 11th, 12th grade, where things are starting to get kind of set in stone. And but yeah, so you've helped out with Fisherman's Fellowship a little bit. Well, first, I guess I should ask, tell us about KayakJak's Outfitters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, you guys know my name's Marty, but my legal name is Jack. And when I first started kayak fishing, my superintendent at the school, I would always have my kayak on top of my vehicle because I'd go fishing every chance I got. And all my life I've been that way. My superintendent would always call me Kayak. Hey, Kayak, how's it going? Hey, he'd stand in the hallway, and yell at me and stuff, and in a fun way. But one day, I was late for a meeting, and I was coming down the hall, and he reached out, leaned out the door and said, "Hey, Kayak Jack, hurry up!" Everybody heard it, and so everybody started calling me Kayak Jack. And then, a few years later, 2004, 2005, I got a great story on that too. But started the guiding business, and he says, "Hey, whatever money you make, I get a cut because I came up with the name." So, but I got to tell you the story about how the guiding started. In fact, I have a picture in front of me up on the wall of the very first guiding trip I ever took. I was out fishing at Rock Creek where I started kayak fishing, a long time ago. And this guy was out there fly fishing. His name was Chris Farmer. He was a pastor from Kansas originally, but I think he lived in Binkelman where I was, extreme southwest Nebraska. Long story short, he comes up, "Hey, Marty, hey, I see you got an extra kayak there. Would you take me fishing sometime in your kayak?" And I go, "Yeah." No one would ever go with me because they were scared they'd tip over. I mean, when I first started, I bought a nose plug and a book on how to do an Eskimo roll. No kidding, because I was scared to death to get in one. I wore a life jacket, the whole works. But I said, "Yeah, I'd be glad to take this." My kids were the only ones. In fact, I probably had the first kids in America kayak fishing. You think about it. And so he goes, "Yeah, I want you to guide me." I go, "Chris, I'm not a guide. You just go fishing with me." He goes, No, you don't get it. You need to be a guide." I think this is like God going, "Okay, Marty, this is where it's going to start." I really. And he comes out, set a date, we go fishing, and he uses his fly rod to catch bass. He's killing it. He's out there just catching them. We get done, and he's just tickled to death. He comes up and he hands me this big wad of cash. I'm like, Chris, I don't need any money for it, really. Though it's okay. Nope. You need to start a guiding business, and it starts today. I'm like, wow, okay, all right. So I took the money home. I come home to my wife. I go, hey, Diane, you're not going to believe this. I just got paid to take a guy fishing. You know what her answer was? It's about time. So anyway, that's how it started. And then from there we started guiding, and it blew up because nobody was doing this, you know. And we were swamped, overwhelmed, in fact, with guiding trips. And so at this point, I've guided thousands through the 20 years or so. And, because we were doing over 100 trips a year at one point, doubling up and so forth. And big trips. I mean, as many as 12 people sometimes. Because it wasn't so much about catching the fish as it was the experience. They wanted the experience and then to go out and buy kayaks. So there you go. There's the kayak. And it's still going today. We still guide. We run a youth program here. I'll talk more about that later if you want. And then we do winter ice fishing trips now. I got guides contracted for that. But basically, I just take people out for the experience. You know, we're not going to go catch 100 crappie and clean them. We're going to just go. Right. We're going for the tugs. You know,
for sure. So what all are you targeting?
Mainly bass, but I have on my website where they can click on a catfish trip or a local lake trip, and usually it depends on the person that I have. You know, they might want to just get a tug, so we'll put them on bluegill. Maybe they want to do the tournament 101 where I teach them how to do a tournament and catch bass, and we go through the scenario of that. So it just depends on the person, but basically we do catfish, bluegill, crappie, and bass.
Okay, and I'm asking because I'm looking like over your shoulder there at this muskie that from where I'm seeing, like it's the length of your head in the picture. Oh, that's Christine.
That's Christine. Yeah.
That's Christine Fisher up there.
Yeah.
She's guided for y'all as well, right?
Yeah. That's actually a pike. We caught three.
Okay.
We were done guiding that day, and we went over to this little place and we put like 4 rods out. We were kind of bait fishing too, but we were trying to see how many hookups we could get on the poles there, and we got 3 at once. And that was one of many trips there. And then I think you can see up there, Nate Glory and I are fishing for wiper. Those are huge wiper up there. And there's my son up there in the other one, and then my other son's over here. So there's a lot of history here. There's an article 2004 on the other side of me there, that way right there. A whole page in the World Herald about kayak fishing in 2004, I believe. They did a big article on it because there was nobody doing it, And so I got to see. I see kayak fishing from a different lens than most people. I see it where it started, and I see it where it's at right now. And to me, this is just me thinking, but the guys who get into kayak fishing and start just doing the tournaments, they're missing out on a lot. They're just missing out on so much. Even I know they're competing, and so that's fun. But just to go out and experience just the pure joy of kayak fishing, and that's what I got to do with my kids. I didn't like right now. Guys are leaving their kids at home going kayak fishing, and and they're not. There's a balance there. I was taking my kids with me, and we were kayak fishing. Today, you got so much tournament, and believe me, I did put on tournaments, but I never competed in them for about, over 10 years, I think. 10 years I did not compete in a tournament, but I put them on. And, so I see it through a whole different lens than anybody else, I would say.
That's awesome. So there's so many questions I have about the changes that you have seen in this sport.
Oh, yeah.
Because I got into kayak fishing. I think it was 2017, maybe 2016, the end of 2016.
Yeah.
But so like just from whenever I got into it, like it's completely different, and that's probably why I am still a paddle purist, and I get to be kind of the grumpy old man in the room whenever I start talking about how I feel about the bigger motorized kayaks and stuff, but most of the time it's really just to annoy the people who are in the motors and don't want to hear anything else. But
and on that, Cam, I'd like to tell you the story on that. Is that, I was a purist too. I still think of myself as one, but I got to tell you this. So 18 years I paddled. In fact, a memory came up yesterday from Lake Fork, the old TOC championship thing, where there was all pedals around me, and I paddled and I beat them to the spot where we were going by paddling. And so I thought, I don't need to pedal. I can still do it. I can, Anyway, I was exhausted when I got there, though. But the other thing is that when I found out that I could pedal and I was getting more casts per hour, I was like, hey, the math looks really good for me catching more fish here. So I started doing that. Well, then I thought, I'll never get a motor. There's no way. There is no way. So last summer, Jackson Orr was there with me when this happened. There was 10 of us that launched up at La Crosse, and we were all going to the same little area for some reason. There's 10 of us. 9 had motors, and I had pedals. And it was 45 minutes to get there by pedal. And so we started out, like 7 of them passed me up, and they're out in front of me, and I'm trying to stay with them, and I'm pedaling up there. We had to go through this like little rapid area, and I passed a bunch more. Well, I ended up tied for 3rd with Jackson when I got there. Jackson looks over and goes, how did you even do that? I said, I have no idea, but I have nothing left. I was dead tired when I got there. And so I thought, you know what? I'm tired of this trying to get to a spot, and I cannot get there because, I'm competing against motors. So I got a motor if I go back, I bought a motor and a PA-14 3 years ago, never used it, stayed in my garage. I ended up selling. I said, no, I'm not doing it yet. So I went back and I bought a motor this end of the summer. I tried it out, and now I can get to a spot really fast, and it doesn't waste me, when I get there. Yeah. But it's only to get me from point A to point B, and then I'm going to pedal around. But that's at the high level tournaments. The smaller stuff, I'm going to still pedal and paddle. But there is a reason to do it, and I get it, and I'm not against any of it. But for me, like you, Cam, I'm a purist. I love paddling. I just love paddling. There you go. There's a story on that.
For sure. So what kind of kayak did you start out in?
Oh my gosh. I think it was like an otter something. It was about 8 foot long, had a little hole in it that my waist could barely squeeze in. And I was always worried about tipping and getting stuck in it. And my legs would fall asleep in it when I would fish longer. And I was a little tippy in it. It was green. I bought it actually on eBay in 1997, I believe. eBay was just kind of still, not real big yet. But I used it for about a year, and then I kept searching for stuff, and I found a kayak in Florida, and it's the old Wilderness 135 ride, and it was actually made for scuba diving. By the way, have you heard of Jim Salmons?
I haven't.
Jim Salmons is one of the he's the OG of kayak fishing, of all OGs, even before Chad Hoover. And I talked to Chad Hoover on the phone, 20 years ago, talking about what was going to happen, and it did. But Jim was a Southern California surfer. I grew up in Southern California, by the way, and I knew who he was. So I reached out to him, and I said, hey, Jim, can I come kayak fishing with you? Of course, I had to hire him as a guide because that's what he did. Well, he told me a lot of stories. Well, the sit-on-top kayak started from surfboards. The surfboard guys would go beyond the surf, and they'd get their pin reels out and their rods, and they would fish for fish, whatever there was out there beyond the waves. And that's how the sit-on-top originated. And there's so many stories on that. But Jim's the guy that's known for catching the marlin or whatever, the sailfish, and getting towed out to sea like 8 miles off the coast of California. And I learned a lot that time, with him. And we were fishing for thresher sharks 3 miles off the California coast in a paddle kayak. It was amazing.
That's awesome. That's that's bucket list level stuff right there.
I got a picture over here with the barracuda I caught that day.
That's awesome. Yeah. Robert, do you have any questions before I keep going?
You probably think this guy's crazy.
No, you guys are doing good. So I'm enjoying listening to the stories, and I totally agree on the tournament fishing and motors, and I was paddling and then fished at Toledo Bend maybe 2 years ago, and I was one of the few people that didn't have pedals, and after that Hobie tournament, I was like, I have got to get something with pedals to be more competitive. And then even, I had a motor at the time, but I had a motor on a paddle kayak. So obviously for the Hobie BOS, I couldn't use the motor. I used it pre-fishing, but it was still very limiting when you're trying to paddle against people that are pedaling. And same thing, when you're pedaling and everybody else has motors, it's the same thing. So,
well, I mean, I was down at Possum Kingdom this year, Bassmaster, and I found a spot, and there was 20 something of us launching from that ramp, but I wanted to get to there. The spot was like a mile and a half, a mile to straight out. And we took off, and I was pedaling, no motor. And here's all these motors, zzz, going along. And this guy, about halfway out there, I'm in the lead with this other guy that has a motor, and he's buzzing. And he looks over at me and he goes, impressive. He goes, you're going about 6 miles an hour. And I go, what? And I'm cranking it, trying to get out there. And so I beat everybody at that spot. He goes, hey, don't worry about me. I'm going somewhere else. Okay. So I slowed up a little bit, got there. But again, I was dead when I got there. Yeah. And I got that spot first. But then, of course, there's another whole story there. But ended up doing really well in that tournament. There was 3 of us in that spot and caught. We went 2nd, 3rd, and 8th off that one spot. There. Wow. And day 2, I had to do it all over again because everybody knew where I was, but got there first again on that day. But, the thing is that, I'm almost 65 years old trying to keep up with the 20 and 30 year olds, and that makes it tough.
For sure. What are you pedaling now?
I take out an Outback, a Hobie Outback, and I've got a Crescent Shoaly. I've got a Jackson Kilroy. I've got a smaller. I've got two Outbacks just in case one goes down. But I did have a PA-12 for a while. It's just too big. I like the Outback. I can get anywhere in. I can flutter kick in the weeds, and I just been able to get, and I can fish it in a river. So it's been very versatile for me and very stable, even with the motor on it.
For sure. And so how many different kinds of kayaks have you gone through since 2004, 2000?
Oh man. Whenever
it was you got started in the kayak?
Oh man. It's in the 30s, I'd say. I've owned so many kayaks. Because I would use them for my rentals, and I use them to fish with, and I'd sell them off each year. So it's funny because I was driving through Iowa a couple weeks ago, and I looked in the storage area, like where they have store campers. I go, that's my old kayak trailer. And then occasionally on the internet, I'll see one of my old kayaks for sale again, and so it's kind of fun to see all that transpire. But no, I've owned a lot of kayaks from in every brand. And that I don't have a kayak sponsor either, because I've had companies approach me, but I told them, I said, look, if I have my clients use just your kayak, that doesn't really give them the experience of trying several types when they're with me, and giving, because some guys have a different budget than others. So I said, hey, but they say, how about a discount? I said, okay, I'll take a discount. So I've done discounts with people and so forth. And that gives the people that I take a chance to see, a kayak from $500 up to, $4,000 or $5,000 when they're out there.
Okay. So I've got a list of a few different questions here in terms of the different kayaks that you've used, and kind of what's the best paddling kayak that you've ever owned? Jackson
Kilroy is the fastest hull out there. It's the old CUDA hull as well. There is no kayak going to beat that in a paddle, and a fishing kayak is going to beat it in a paddle race. I know from experience. That thing can move. and it's got the big giant cockpit in it. It's actually made, I would say it's made for duck hunting more than anything, because you can haul. I've seen guys haul decoys in them, but that, and I don't want to sell that one. I've kept it, but it is a fast kayak. And then Christine, her actual first fishing kayak was my old Cuda, the old the Jackson Cuda kayak, same hole, just sit on top though.
Right.
So it's fast for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's the fastest. What's the best like creek, river, skinny water boat that you've used so far?
Well, Drew Gregory will like this comment. The Crescent Shoaly. It can go in like 1 inch of water. And I love it. And it's got the front of it shaped like a bowl kind of, so it moves around on the water better on that river, and it doesn't get caught up in the current like a kayak that sits a little bit lower in it, because like your inflatables, those are what you want to fish the river with anyway. But the Shoaly does a great job in staying on top of that water, and you can actually move a little bit quicker on it and maneuver a little bit better with it. And that's why Gregory designed a really good kayak there. And going back before that, when the Coosa first came out, I got one of the first Coosas. It was out of Colorado, and I thought, stand-up kayak, I'm going to try that. I don't like standing up, but the Jackson Coosa was also a good river kayak.
Okay. All right. So the best pedaling kayak that you've used so far?
I'm not going to do that. I cycled. I cycled competitively, and I was like, nah. I like the pedal power and the Hobie. I would say that the Hobie drive, not the 360 drive. I think it's got too many moving parts, and it's going to have breakdowns in it. But the original Hobie drives were the best. The ones now, they were out a little. I don't know why it is, but they were out a little bit faster. In fact, I got to replace 2 spines from just this past 2 months. But the Hobie, what is it called? The Mirage Drive is absolutely the best. It's durable. You can, and the kick-ups were a great addition to it. When I didn't have kick-ups, I ran into everything and destroyed them. But the Hobie Mirage pedal drive is the best out there. To me, that's the best. And I'm not sponsored, but I just that's what I like.
Okay. What's the biggest innovation you've seen in terms of kayak, like fishing kayak features? Not necessarily the electronics or motors or anything like that, but the features on the kayak itself.
I would say that's a great question, Cam. The design, the design and how you can bring your gear on board. Like, for instance, the Crescent Shoaly, you can put the board, it's inserted in the deal there in the hole. Also, you remember, too, that the earlier kayaks, that this probably the greatest innovation, though, was the early kayaks, like the Perception caster kayaks like that. Your butt sat below the water line in the kayak, and they didn't have scupper holes. So when you got water in your kayak, it was there for the day. So we basically wore swimsuits when we kayak fished. You didn't dare wear cotton. And as company engineers made these kayaks better, they raised up the seat and then put scupper holes in it, which kept the water draining out of it. And you didn't get that itchy butt you got with those holes, because it was horrible when you got wet. And I still have people today that I take that have never been in a kayak before. You'd be surprised how many people have not been in a kayak yet. They actually sometimes scream. Ladies will scream sometimes, "My kayak has holes in it." I say, "You'll be fine, don't worry," because that's scupper holes. They think they're going to sink, and obviously I got to give them a lesson on buoyancy. So, but I would say that's the greatest innovation, is how we sit in a kayak, and in the comfort of it. Man, there was no padding for a seat. You had a back behind you, and a lot of times they would break, and you spent time kayaking with no support for your back, and that was hard on me. So.
Yeah, so I got my start in a Sundolphin Journey, the 10-footer, and so it did have scupper holes. It had 4 scupper holes that were smaller than my pinky, so they didn't do much. And there were no scupper holes near the seat whatsoever. So I remember those wet times, and I've. For quite a while now, I have not been a little dude, and being in that boat that had like a 275-pound weight capacity, whenever you're pushing 250 without your gear, it's a little dicey. It's a wonder that thing was not a submarine.
Wow.
But I talk bad about that kayak a lot on this podcast, but you know what? It got me out on the water, and it made me fall in love with the sport.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that kayak that I was able to cut the hole for my center hatch with a pocket knife, then I would not be here right now, because as much as I loved bank fishing, it probably would not have kept me in the sport the same way that kayak fishing has.
You think about that, Cam. I still remember the first day I launched, and I would not go further than 5 feet from shore. But when I got that first tug, which by the way was a bluegill, I was like, this is amazing. And started fishing, and I was hooked. And I got a article in Nebraska Land magazine from early 2000s, where this reporter called every superintendent in the state of each lake, trying to find someone in a kayak because he had heard about it. And then the superintendent where I lived said, there's some lunatic down here that goes out all the time in one. And so he did a story on it, and it was really cool to share that experience. And then that's when it exploded here in Nebraska. Because the sport itself kind of grew, I feel, Nebraska out and the coast in. Because I don't know, I talked to a lot of guys, and no one, there's been some guys, 20 to 22 years. But really, when I started, I got on the internet, and I only found like 3 other guys that were doing it at that time. Maybe there was more, like Little up there in Pennsylvania. He was doing it. We started about the same time. I didn't even know it,
Yeah.
And Chad Hoover, same thing. He started maybe a little bit before me even. But Jim Salmons was in the 80s, doing this mainly with a surfboard, but that I know of. So who knows? But I just know that just like you, I just fell in love with it. Right, that tug. I would say that the drug is in the tug.
Yeah.
And
sure.
And I just it was my way of kind of scaling down, because I'm type A big time, and I could get away from everything and settle down a little bit, because I lived a very busy lifestyle.
For sure. Yeah. My first fish from a kayak was a chain pickerel.
Wow.
In a mill pond in the cypress swamps that was just like, it's you go back in there and it's like, this is where I'm supposed to be, like away from everybody. And it was not a big chain pickerel. It might have been 12 inches. It might've been 10 inches, but I was fishing minnows under bobbers for crappie. It's funny. Still to this day, I have caught more crappie than I can count. I have never caught a crappie on purpose. I always catch them whenever I'm fishing for bass, but I have never caught one on purpose. If I target crappie, I catch a bunch of bass and pickerel and like white perch and yellow perch and stuff like that. But I don't know what it is about those things, but they have my number. But yeah, that thing, it took the bobber, and whenever it did, it spun me around
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, this is fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very similar experiences, it sounds like, but, but yeah, so we're pushing this one. This was going to be a little bit of a long one, but that's okay.
All these guys that are driving on the road, that we all listen to these, so I could listen to a podcast for hours. It doesn't matter. So it's good.
We're both the same way. So
yeah, for sure. But let's dive into your faith story, man.
Sure.
So kind of give us an idea what it is that you believe and how did you come to believe that?
I was in sixth grade, and I share this testimony a lot with kids. Sixth grade, I'm sitting in the back of the church. I lived in a military base at the time. I lived in military bases most of my younger years. And bus came by, picked us up, took us to church. I was West Coast Baptist Church in Oceanside, California. Sixth grade, sitting in the back of the church after Sunday school. And the preacher's talking about, will you be ready when he comes? I remember that. And all of a sudden, will you be ready when the trumpet sounds is what it was. And a trumpet sounded. I don't know how I got there, but I was at the altar that day in record time. And that's the day I was saved and Christ came to my life. Now, does that mean that things got better from there? No, it didn't. But I knew who Christ was at that point, and it's been big part of my life since then. Have there been times where I've didn't want to be part of it? Yeah, especially in my college years, where I was trying to figure myself out as well. But after that, I changed, I thought. And then when I met Diane, my wife Diane, she's my pillar for all that we do too. But she has kept me grounded as well. And I've been fortunate to have pastors in my life that have helped me grow and mature in the Lord in my life. And lately, and the stuff that I've been through, I go back and I'm doing next week I'm speaking at, I'll tell you about this here in a second, but I'm speaking next week and going to talk about God's plan. Our plans are God's plan, because if it's our plan, it's not going to work. If it's God's plan, you're probably going to have a better chance. It may not be easy, but his plan's the way to go. And I was asked to speak, I don't know, last summer down in Kansas at a men's fellowship group. And afterwards, on the way home, I had a tug, and I was like, why aren't we doing this in Auburn, where we're at? So we started an Ironman group here. We've already had one. We had one event already. We're having another one next Thursday. We have a meal. We have a speaker, music, and it's just guys getting together and sharing our faith together. And so that's it. Isn't that something how God works in that way? And so that's what we'll be doing. But anyway, I just want to tell people out there that just because you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior doesn't mean it's going to be easy your life. You're going to be challenged more than you ever have been, especially with Satan on the prowl. And, I just feel fortunate that I've had people to fellowship with in my life that have helped me stay grounded, and also for me to help them stay grounded when they have challenges in their life. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I do want to tell you, I got to tell you a quick story though. When I retired from teaching, 9 years ago or so, I was going to retire, and I was riding on a bus to Omaha, Nebraska from Bacon, it's about 6 hours. And I saw this ad in my phone for a teaching job in Lincoln, because my wife wanted to move there to get closer to her parents. And it had music and PE, which we could both teach. And so I called them and I said, hey, you guys got this? They said, yeah, come on for an interview. They interviewed my wife and I at the same time. That just doesn't happen. They interviewed at the same time in the same room, offered the jobs right there. We said, well, can we wait a year? And they said, well, we got to hire somebody. So we said, we're going to stay where we're at for another year so our son can graduate from high school. During that year, they kept calling me and saying, hey, we'd like you to be an administrator for our school. I said, I've never been an administrator. And so they kept calling, but I got to go back. I did a kayak fishing seminar for a school up in David City, Nebraska, northeast Nebraska. On the way home, I stopped at a lake, camped out with some friends, and went catfishing. The next morning I wake up and I go, man, God, if it's your will, this is where I'd love to, I would serve you here, and I could live here, and it'd be great. And Diane's close to her parents. Go home. That's when all this happened. I got ahead of myself, but that calling that school happened right after that. A year later, they asked me to be the administrator of that school, like the superintendent guy to run the school. I'd never been an administrator before. Here I am going to run a school. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So God moves us that way. We go to look for a home, a new home. You know where it was? The home we purchased was 1 mile north of the spot that I camped on that lake. Can you believe that? And then the name of the road that we lived on was the same name as the lake that I started kayak fishing, Rock Creek Lake, Rock Creek Road. That's amazing. And then, of course, it was a private Christian school as well. And the whole thing, if I told you a more in-depth story, it's even more bizarre than that. But so we did that. And then, of course, after a couple of years, things were real good there. But we got a calling to come here to Auburn to help the culture here. And that's where it really took off. And then, but at the same time, I had never been more challenged in my life and during that 5 years, personally. I lost my mom and my dad, and some things happened personally with one of my sons. So it was a very, very challenging time. But at the same time, if it wasn't for my faith, I wouldn't have got through it. And my friends. So there you go. There's some faith for you.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I know we're getting pretty close to an hour here. So okay. I want to be able to kind of keep things going a little bit. You're the kind of storyteller that, I mean, I could just say go, and then 2 hours later it's like, all right, that's our show. Yeah. But there's a couple of questions that we always ask all of our guests, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to ask you as well. But what faith story what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
The first time I ever fished was I got taken, my dad and all his Navy buddies went up the High Sierra Mountains in California to Bishop, and they fished for trout. It was my first time. I think I was a 4th or 5th grader. And we went up to the mountains, and for me to be part of that men's group, I had to catch a trout on my own. And I caught a little tiny one, went back to camp, and they were all cheering for me. That was the highlight of my life. And that's where I became hooked on fishing. I remember trying to get that rainbow out of the stream, and it was dirty and rolled all over the place, but I got it and I went back. And so that was my proudest moment, one of the proudest moments of my life, kind of a rite of passage to be accepted by the older guys, Oh yeah. So there you go. That's my favorite fishing memory.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, what about when you're out on the water? What's some of the conversations? What do you like to talk about with other anglers when you're out on the water?
I talk to everybody. You probably figured that out. But when I'm out there, I say, I'll just come up, hey, how's it going, man? Are you on them? Are you getting them? And they just sound, with enthusiasm. And then they, oh, yeah. And I said, like just the other day, I had a guy. I said, how you doing? And we talked, and it got to talking to him. He goes, yeah, I follow you on Facebook. I'm like, what? I didn't know who he was. And he says, oh yeah, I know who you are. And so he was, I don't know if it was good, bad, or whatever, but I said, this is how I'm catching them. And he went down, and later on he posted on Facebook, hey, thanks for the tip. And he had these big bass that he caught, and I think wiper and white bass as well. But just to help see somebody like that succeed out there after you talk to them, it's pretty cool. But I talk to everybody that I'm out there with, whether, young, old, whatever, and then just see how their day's going. And then, spread that enthusiasm to them that I have for fishing, when I'm out there. Now, some guys, there's the, they kind of stuffy, I still try to see it's a game for me. Hey, I'm going to get that guy to lighten up if I can, like hey, you're on my spot. I say, what spot? And, or they'll come over by me and cast in front of me or something and say, hey, nice cast. I just make it comical for them. I'm not going to do that. I mean, now don't get me wrong. There were times in my life when I was a little bit different than that. I'd get upset if anybody came within, 100 yards of me. it seemed like, but I've changed. I've learned to accept it and say, you know what, it's for everybody. So anyway, there you go.
For sure. Yeah. Even on my best days, sometimes I come across as the stuffy one but I'm just so introverted that sometimes I just don't realize that I am ignoring people.
Yeah.
My dad used to introduce me to people, say, this is my son Cameron. He doesn't talk to people. So
Now you go to some of those stuffy guys all, hey, you want to race? They're in a big old boat and I'm in a little kayak, and I said, I didn't tell you it was 10 yards. Stuff like that. But anyway, so there you go.
Awesome. Well, we are going to jump into our What's Your Favorite segment here. You've listened to the show before, you know what it is, but we're going to ask you your favorite in a few different categories, and we'll get that started right after this.
Okay.
If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs. Let's try that again. If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jaysjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jaysjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
And we did not mention it at the beginning of the episode, but once you've used that FNF15 code for Omnia, man, y'all can tell I am tired tonight. I am stuttering all over the place. Once you've used that one-time code, go back and use code FNF10. And that one's not going to expire on you. It'll get you 10% off. So you get the 15% for it being your first order. But after that, y'all go ahead and use the FNF10 and save yourself a little bit of money on every purchase from here on out. It'll help support the podcast and it will help y'all out a little bit too. So, Marty, you ready for what's your favorite?
Sure.
All right. What is your favorite scripture?
Philippians 4:13, I believe. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There you go. I have, in fact, it's in my workshop up above on a little frame. So, yep, that's my favorite.
Awesome. And what about your favorite Bible story?
Job, man. I had a pastor. He goes, Marty, your name ought to be Job because you've been through the gauntlet. He lost everything, but yet he still kept his faith. And so I've always related to that. And the other thing is that, there's always a blessing in anything that happens to you. You got to look at the blessing in it. If you look at the bad in it, like I broke my hand 7 weeks ago, and it slowed me down. It slowed me way down. But there was a blessing in it. I learned a lot of things that I could do that I didn't do before. And it also made me do some things I didn't do before. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, there's a blessing in everything. find the positive in whatever. And that's what Job did. He found the positive in whatever happened. So.
And if you are someone who you want to find the positive and you've been struggling with trying to figure out how to find the positive and everything, tune in next week for our end of the season episode with Alex Rudd. All right. So what is your favorite fish to catch?
Probably largemouth. Well, no, I'm going to say smallmouth bass. I don't get to catch a lot of them, but man, oh gosh, when I was up at Susquehanna, oh my gosh, that was incredible. They just fight. They never give up. They just don't. So I was going to say largemouth, but I'm going to say smallmouth.
Are you going back to Susky this year when bass goes back?
I'm going to try. I gotta pad my fishing budget enough. I'm retired now, so I gotta pad my fishing budget during the winter, and hopefully I'll have enough to go to a bunch of those. I'm doing the Bassmaster for sure. I don't know how many yet though, but I like the local scene too, and the travel beats me up.
It's a lot because that's kind of going back to what you're talking about the motors and the paddling. To compete, you've got to go a few days early because just these lakes and rivers that all these national trails are on, you can't go on Friday and just pre-fish Friday and compete. You just can't do it. So that requires a little bit more planning and a little bit more money to make it a 5 or 6 day trip.
And on that, you might have an area on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then on Saturday, 18 guys show up to that area, and you're like, okay, what's plan B? So you better have a plan A, B, C, and D up your sleeve to be able to do what you're doing. Like Dusty Yacker today, he said, I got 4 guys right here, and I've only got 2 fish. Well, he ends up catching that 23 later on today because he just stayed with it.
That was a tank of a fish. That was a huge fish.
You bet. So you're right. I mean, on that part of it. So
So you said smallmouth's your favorite fish to catch. What about your favorite fish to fish for? The actual act of trying to trick them into biting.
I would say the largemouth because you've always got a puzzle in front of you, and it's never the same. And you guys probably, I don't know if you've heard, I fish the Nico rig a lot, and that's kind of like my go-to. Everybody has their go-to. That's my strength is finesse fishing, but just trying to figure them out. To me, whether I win or get last in the tournament, it's not about that. It's about, did I figure the puzzle out? And when I go out, my goal is to catch a fish, 1 fish. And then if I catch a fish, then I look at getting a limit, and then I look at the upgrade. That's how I approach it. But if I go out there thinking I've got to get a limit, it's not going to work very well. You got to go out there thinking I'm going to catch a fish. And when you figure out that puzzle, it's like, oh, I did it. And you can leave knowing that, hey, you know what? I did what I came to do, caught fish. And where you fall, the skill is catching them. The luck is how long they are. So that's how I look at it.
So it's good to know that you're a finesse guy. That's my weakest point. And so I may be reaching out for some tips.
Anytime. And even when I was a kid in saltwater, go out in the cattle boats, you call them, I would throw a nickel hook with no weight, free line a live anchovy. That's finesse fishing in the Pacific. And I just been and here in Nebraska, I would catch creek chubs, put them on the same kind of hook, and catch big bass with them, And then now I use the Nico and the lizard and stuff like that. So,
all right. What's your go-to Nico bait?
The TRD, the big TRD and green pumpkin or molten craw works. I've caught big bass in every state that I fished on the Nico rig in those colors. And I use a small drop shot hook, real small, not too hot, and fluorocarbon leader and neon so I can see the line move. If I don't feel the bite, but basically that's what I do. And I make my own heads. I use a 1/16 usually. A lot of guys use heavier, but I like to have it fall a little bit slower and then twitch it like a little crawdad, Now, if it's deeper water, I'm going to use a heavier weight. But I mold my own weights here and paint them and everything. So,
okay. Very, very nice. All right. What is your favorite fish to eat?
Salmon. Smoked salmon. That's it. I don't eat much seafood either. I just like salmon.
Smoked salmon. I think that's
it's good.
On the grill.
I don't know if that's the first time that has been said on the podcast or not, but if it's not, it's been a while.
Yeah. I'll eat fish, but not very often. I'd have chicken or something, but my wife makes really good salmon. So
I'm a fan of salmon.
Yeah. I did have Chase O'Dean on the show a while back, and he's from Oregon, so he might have said salmon too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about your favorite fishing snack?
Oh man, if guys laugh at me because I'll stop and eat lunch during a tournament. But I bring fig bars, but my favorite is this new one. It's a granola bar out of Omaha. Gosh, they're upstairs. I love granola bars. That's my favorite snack.
Yeah.
Okay. That's usually one of the things I take with me and just don't reach back and grab. I would have much better days on the water some days if I would just stop and eat or stop and not get super dehydrated. Yeah. I'll leave with 2 gallons of water and then come back with the same amount. And it's like, why did I not drink it? Yeah. It's 115 degrees today. All right. So don't want any GPS coordinates, secret spots or anything like that. But what's your favorite body of water to fish?
Gosh, after going to Possum Kingdom, that was good. But I'm going to say Caddo Lake. Caddo is epic. It's like really shallow and you can't even see the fish bite. It's where they come from. That's kind of Susquehanna too. But Caddo, there's something about it that I just love the feel of it. It's like the Duck Dynasty guys, when they show their shows, I just like, I want to fish there. And when I fish there, I've had some really epic fishing there as well. But just the scenery, the birds, everything about it, it's pure nature. And there's nowhere to get out. You're out there, So that's it.
For sure. I've seen pictures. I haven't been to Caddo yet.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But it seems like it would be my cup of tea. It looks a lot like the mill ponds that I cut my teeth on. So.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, you kind of already answered the next one, but the next one was favorite lure to throw. But you already really kind of went into the Nico rig.
Yeah, Nico and jackhammer. Nico and a jackhammer are pretty much all I do. And I have all kinds. No, I do the sonar minnow too and stuff. But basically Nico. In fact, guys will watch me at tournaments and they'll watch which rod I'm using and they go, "Oh, you're not throwing a Nico today." I said, "I used a different color rod today. That's why." But they want to try to guess what you're throwing on or whatever. But mainly Nico, and then for moving bait, the jackhammer.
Yeah, they ought to know you can't catch other people's fish anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I've had guys say, "I've used that Nico. I haven't caught a thing with it yet." And I said, "Well,
they're not holding their mouth right.
It's on the wrist."
All right. Well, last but not least, what is your favorite time of year to fish?
I would say the time of year right now. I'm going out tomorrow. The feed bag, it's on. Monday I caught 38 fish, some big wiper. Caught 9 master angler, white bass and wiper, 2 big giant cats. Caught bass, caught crappie. Right now they're biting like mad here because the water is like 48 to 50, and we've had the most mild fall that I've ever seen. And what's cool is I've seen fall since the Susquehanna deal, coming back down from the Northeast to here, I've seen the same exact weather kind of, which has been kind of fun. And same is true in the spring when you start down in Florida or Alabama and work your way up. But I would say the fall, and not so much early in the morning or late night. Most of your bites are like later in the morning, midday kind of, so I don't have to get up too early.
Okay. Robert, what are our water temps here right now? Like upper 50s?
Yeah, you're around 61, 62.
Yeah. You guys got prime time going on too. They're probably as well. I wanted to mention too, if anybody's local list, they will, because I'll share this for you. But We got an expo, our first expo, Sportsman's Expo, right here in Auburn, and we're bringing speakers, kayak fishing speakers. We're having a cornhole tournament, a chili feed, raffles, a fisherman's fellowship, the whole works, man. And it's to raise all the proceeds go to our kids program. So hopefully we'll make enough to help, get that going. And then you guys know about my 2023 challenge?
No.
You don't? I tried to catch 2023 bass in 2023. Been doing it for about 11 or 12 years, I think now.
Okay.
But we had 244 guys in it, and it's harder than you think. It's on Tourney X, called Fishing for 2023. Well, we're gonna do another one called Catch More in 24. So that's kind of a fun thing that I do. And right now I'm 31 fish from 3,000.
Wow.
But that's multi-species. The bass I've got like 2,300. But I'm a stats guy. Ryan Lambert always laughs at me because man, you're just all about stats. I go, yes, I am. Because as an educator, it's all about data.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
all right, man.
There you go.
Well, we're going to start wrapping things up. You've kind of already let us know what you've got coming up next for you. But in terms of on a personal level, what you got coming up?
Personal level for fishing or for my faith or for
whatever it is you want to share.
All right. Well, my wife and I just became members of our local church after 7 years attending there. We moved here. We felt really good about being accepted there, and then and working with them, and then being more active in the church. Now that I'm retired, I can, because as a principal, it was just there's events every day, and fishing, and then having the Ironman group that's going well, doing that, and of course the expo, and then fishing wise, looks like we'll start out at the I don't know if I'll go to clear down to South Carolina, but I am definitely going to the Bassmaster Championship at 10 killer, qualified for that, finished fifth in the AOY standings there, which I felt really good about. Only 4 points out of second, but it wasn't so much about that. It was just doing it. I just wanted to do it, And then I don't know what there's. I have a spreadsheet that you'll see the links of it out there. It has on there how like the dates for each one, and you can just line it up on the spreadsheet to see if that weekend's open for you. And I lined every tournament up from the regionals to the nationals, and then you can plug in your locals on there as well. And that's on kayakbuySellTrade.com under events. KayakbuySellTrade.com. And that I'm not advertised. I just post that everywhere so guys can see that. So that's
the guy in our local trail who does that. Shout out to Don Trail Sullivan. He puts all the national stuff and all of the North Carolina trails in one spreadsheet.
Yeah,
gives them out every year.
Yeah. I've been doing that too up here, and and also I have a map. I have a Google map that has the icon of that event, and all you have to do is type in where you're at, and it tells you the distance.
Nice.
It's on there too as well, so you can do that.
Awesome. And go ahead and shout out any sponsors, supporters, anybody you want to say thank you to.
Sure.
The floor is yours for all of that kind of stuff.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, well, Bass Pro's been with them quite 8-9 years. They've been really good to me. Do a lot of stuff with them. They help support my youth events. Yak Gear from when they first started their business, even though it changed ownership now. Still with them. Bending Branches, and then Ice Hole Powers, the battery part of it. Easy Rec Rack, that guy, I can put my kayak on top of my truck, easy with that. Select Sail and Sport out of Omaha. They're more of a supporter, but they repair all my stuff for me. And of course my own company, KayakJak's Outfitters, on that. So that's basically who I work with, but I want to thank my wife for letting me, she's a saint for letting me do all this. And, of course, I'm not sitting at home, and she's not going to let me anyway. So, I'm going to thank her. And then all of my friends that I've made, through the years doing this and supporting my efforts to promote it, and also my efforts to try to just, go out and have fun, and then set an example for others as well.
Absolutely. And if our listeners want to kind of follow your adventures, kind of let us know where we can follow you on social media, all that good stuff. And then also if somebody wants to book a guided trip with you, shout out your any of that kind of information, website, all that good stuff.
You can go to KayakJak.com, no C in it. There's a book now button, 2 clicks and you're in. You can book a trip, and all the available dates are on there. And I have no idea how it does it, but I just do it. Anyway, it's set up. And then on YouTube at KayakJak, KYAKJAK. Facebook, if you just type in Marty Hughes or KayakJak's Outfitters, there's 2 sites there as well. And then the other thing is I have an Intel site on my website as well, where you can pay a membership, and I spill the juice on every local lake in the area, including latest fishing reports, so forth. Just put a video out on how to get out of a kayak. It's like a minute long, because that's about how long it takes for me to get out of a kayak. but just try to do things that are practical. I also write for Wired to Fish, and I've got several kayak fishing articles there that are be of interest for the beginner kayaker as well. And I'm writing one on an eco coming out soon. Awesome.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Marty, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for reaching out and asking to be on the show. It's been an awesome one. I love having storytellers on, and we appreciate you coming on, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their Fly Caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water, or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tyers that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your Fly Caddy today, and use promo code faithnfish15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
Another huge thank you to Marty for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. I'll have his links in the show notes so that you can go book your trip with KayakJak's Outfitters, or go follow him on social media, whatever you want to do. As always, the All Things Faith and Fishing link is also there. Our merch store website, sponsor links, our Omnia profiles, all of that stuff is there. And you can follow it to listen on whatever platform you listen on. So, Robert, another good one. I feel a little bit bad. I kind of took over that one, and you didn't get to.
Oh no, you're fine. I had fun. I had fun listening, and there's definitely, we could probably do 5 more shows with him. I mean, there's so much information there that I was just happy just listening to his stories, and so hopefully, maybe the beginning of next year, we can touch base with him and see how his Bassmaster. The finale goes at the classic, and go from there. But I had fun. I thought it was a great episode, and I love it. Like you said, when we have storytellers on, and very easy to listen to, and that'll make for some good listening for sure.
Absolutely. We did have a few technical issues that we had to power through, and I kind of stuttered my way through it. I promise y'all, this is LaCroix, like sparkling water. I'm just, it's just been, it's been a long day for everybody, but, let's go ahead. Let's close it out. I can't remember who did it last time. You want to close it out in prayer?
Sure, I'll go.
All right.
Dear Lord in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to spread your word and bring people closer to you. Thank you for allowing us to have Marty on, and please watch over him and put your hands on all the ministry that he's doing, and all the fellowshipping, and just watch over that, help that grow, help more kayak anglers at these tournaments get involved with the fishing fellowship before the tournaments, and just watch over us all, and let all the anglers get to and from these tournaments and on and off the water safely, and forgive us of our sins. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Y'all take care.
All right. Have a good one.
God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph, and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.